Good morning, Hank. Welcome into the Blitz. How you doing, man?
Hey, Martin. I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Well, Hank, appreciate you being with us this morning. Alabama coming off an SEC championship. Some guys making decisions here in the coming weeks. Urban Meyer on the move again. Just kind of recap what this week of Alabama winning and Ohio State dropping the news, if that's going to have any impact on the Crimson Tide recruiting class.
Yeah, anytime you win a big marquee game like the SEC championship, that's obviously an eye-opener for recruits. And there was a lot of buzz after that game, especially in the way it ended. And we reached out to a lot of guys and did some interviews, and they were pumped. It was funny. Everyone watched it. Like you couldn't find a recruit that didn't watch it or didn't have any idea. I thought it was funny. Brandon Turnage was on an Ole Miss visit, and an official visit at Ole Miss, and he watched the whole game while he's on his official visit to Ole Miss. So certainly a lot of guys excited, and I think it is something that with 2 weeks to go until the early signing period, guys have in the back of their mind that they see they like winning teams, and that was certainly a really good performance by Alabama there late. And then as far as the Ohio State stuff goes, I think if this had happened, I know when that Urban Meyer news, when all that stuff started to kind of come out late in the summertime, there really wasn't a lot of, in the 2019 class, there weren't really a lot of mutual Alabama-Ohio State targets at the time. So I think we might have talked about it then. I just didn't think it would have really affected anything as far as Bama goes in the 2019 class. But here we are in December, and I think it has a huge impact on at least one 2019 recruit in Jordan Battle, who's a four-star safety, recruited as a corner, kind of do-it-all defensive back out of Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas Aquinas. He's a guy that Bama really started to push for early on this season. They invited him to their season opener against Louisville in Orlando. He came back for an official visit during the Mississippi State game, and they've certainly been pushing for him. Nick Saban saw him earlier this week, and he was asked specifically if Urban Meyer were to leave, what would happen to his recruitment. This was prior to Urban Meyer announcing he was stepping down, but he said he would definitely reconsider things as far as where he stands. So he is one to watch right now. He has a state championship game tomorrow night, and then after that, I think he's really going to start focusing on making a final decision, and I think Bama has a really good chance to flip him by the early signing period. So he'll be a guy we're watching, and of course, going forward in the 2020 class, Urban Meyer not being at Ohio State will certainly impact some recruitment. There's some five-star guys, and there's actually a story up on Bama Online about this right now. Some guys in the 2020 class, I think that'll certainly be looking at Bama. Ohio State's probably not going to go anywhere. It's obviously one of those blue blood programs, and a lot of guys like Brian Day as well, the new head coach. So, but with a guy like Urban Meyer leaving, that's going to affect a lot, I think. So, I think it'll work out well for Bama, and it could work out almost immediately with a guy like Jordan Battle.
All right, Pat, you're in with Hank South. What's your question for him?
Is, in your opinion, just like a battle that you're talking about there, you got Noah People-Gates and you got Hill as safeties. Out of the three, which one do you think is the best? I know you've been tracking them.
Yeah, that's a good question. No, People-Gates, I think, is more a corner, as is. I think Jordan Battle and People-Gates are more corner. All of them, we see Bama recruiting these guys that you talk to them and you're like, oh, well, where's Bama recruiting you? And they're like, oh, well, I can play corner, I can play star, I can play safety. So they can kind of all do a lot. I really like Dax Hill. I've always liked Dax Hill. He committed to Michigan, five-star safety from Oklahoma. He's just one of those guys that he's like a sure thing as far as recruiting goes. But as far as guys, I think Bama still, we'll see. There's a lot of talk that maybe Dax Hill still is looking at Bama. I don't want to start that hype right now. But as far as guys, I think Bama has a good chance at landing come signing day. Noah People-Gates, Jordan Battle. I really like Jordan Battle, and we've seen these guys out of South Florida that just Bama has really hit up South Florida hard and had a lot of success with guys that recruited from down there. And I think Jordan Battle has all the makeup to be a really successful defensive back under Nick Saban if he were to flip. Paula Gates, I mean, you turn on his tape, he's a hard hitter. He's a pretty fun kid to watch. You can certainly see why Alabama is very high on him. Nick Saban saw him yesterday. So if I had to pick one, I mean, I've always said Jack Hill's one of my favorite recruits in the class, so I'm going to stay consistent with that. But, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those guys.
All right.
All right. And one more question before I go. Defensive lineman that I believe that Ika is probably one of the pieces that we stand the best chance of getting out of Salt Lake City, Utah, as being a run stopper. Who do you think is going to be the next piece to fall in place with Ika as far as joining Alfano?
Right. Yeah, I think Ika is a guy that could end up in the class, certainly. It's just one of those situations where, there's so few spots left that there's just so many finishes this class could have. I think I put up a list of guys yesterday that, there's like 20 guys I feel like you could make legitimate arguments that could actually end up in this class still, with only, 7 to 8 spots left. I mean, obviously there's things that happen in recruiting that open up spots. So you can never rule out, the numbers game. But I think Ika is a guy that could end up guys he's officially visiting next weekend, and Bama seems to be pushing for him still. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. I still think Ishmael Sopsher, the number one defensive tackle in the nation. I think he's leaning to Alabama. He's not going to say it, but just kind of how I've seen this recruitment trend. I think if he was choosing today, it would be Alabama, but he's not choosing until February 6th. So there's a lot of time left for a team like LSU to try to keep him home, and obviously he's taking official visits elsewhere as well. But I think Bama has a very good shot at signing Ishmael Sopsher.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Hey, if he can get Sopsher, I'm going to start a GoFundMe page for Nick Saban. All right.
Thanks, Pat. Bye. All right, we're speaking to Hank South, 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting. Hank, when you look at we put up a poll question, what grouping does Alabama have to hit a home run in? And when you look at the defensive linemen, it can kind of look like it's just a whole Alabama has hit a home run in the defensive line. And I agree with that to a certain degree, meaning strong side defensive ends, Alfano, Boydby, Young. I mean, they have those guys. They have the weak defensive ends. But my concern is that D tackle, DJ Dale, only guy on the board. Ishmael Sopsher is a guy that we have to land a guy. We just don't have a lot of depth when we could potentially lose Raekwon Davis, Quentin Williams, and Isaiah Buggs definitely gone. Other than DJ Dale, Sopsher, is Alabama looking to sign as many as 9 to 10 defensive linemen? Because they're at 7 right now.
Yeah, no, and I mean, obviously, I think if you look at the class right now, it's already. The defensive tackle spot, could probably be added to it. I think we're seeing Alabama really kind of press for that. But I'm not really putting a cap on defensive line. The way that we've been saying this for a while, that since I think June when Boydby committed or when Young committed in July, there was just a lot of defensive linemen Bama was recruiting, and it really hasn't changed.
Okay.
We just talked about Ika. He's a guy that could add in the middle right there. Sopsher, of course, is still in the picture. They're still recruiting guys like Ty Robinson, who they saw yesterday out in Arizona. He's also a defensive end as well, Sopsher defensive end. And then still on, there's guys like DeQuasia Sorrells that they saw last week out of Florida. So there's still a lot of options left on the defensive line. But I think you'll see them add at least one more, if not two more defensive linemen. And I think they are kind of focusing on that defensive tackle spot, kind of with a Sopsher or with an Ika type player.
Okay. Other than the defensive line, what other position do you think Alabama has to hit a home run? And when I'm saying home run, I think you kind of mentioned it about Hill going to Michigan is like a home run guy, like a Surtain, a guy that has to come in and play, because I think D linemen are going to have to come in and play next year immediately. What other position does Alabama have to hit like a home run guy, or do they have a home run guy that can come in and immediately help?
I think Alfano is your home run guy right now. We're just looking at the class. I think he's a guy, he gets in January. He's going to have an entire spring kind of learning the system, getting in the strength program, and getting ready. And I'll tell you, he thinks he's coming in to start day one. So he has that mentality to come in and really make an impact, and I think he can, especially with the semester under his belt. But as far as guys under that are not committed yet, and a lot of people say, and I think it's more people kind of just making excuses because their school's probably not going to get him. But a lot of people saying that Kobe Dean, undersized, or he might take a few years to be ready to play in college. But I think that Kobe Dean is just a freak. I mean, you watch this kid tape. He just won the Butkus Award for the nation's top high school linebacker yesterday. Inside linebacker is a position of need. Certainly, they're going to have Mac Wilson, Alec Cahoe, and Dylan Moses. I'll assume Mac Wilson kind of hinted at it coming back, but they're going to need more guys going forward. And he's just one of those kids that just is a really, really good football player. And I think he would be you never want to say he's a sure thing, put too much pressure on him, but I mean, he's the closest to a sure thing, in my opinion, as it gets in this 2019 class.
A kid that I have just been, I follow recruiting, but because of my son being a wrestler, I've been looking at Clay Webb a lot more from the football standpoint as well as from wrestling. Is Clay Webb, is he one of those guys? Because we're losing our center, all SEC center, leaving. No one has any meaningful snaps. Two questions about Clay Webb. Does the Tide get him? I know he's kind of keeping it close to the vest. And number two, is he an early enrollee guy, or is he going to be one of these guys that commits late and comes in the summer?
Right. Yeah, he is announcing a decision on December 10th at his high school. So he's wrapping this up, and he is an early enrollee. So,
okay, great.
So we'll know what's happening. He'll be on campus soon. So his recruitment's winding down the next few days. But as far as that, will Alabama get him? It just depends on who you ask. I think right now it's Alabama or Georgia, but also you can't really discount Auburn. Maybe you can discount Clemson a little bit more. I think they're on the outside looking in. You apparently called off an in-home visit with Dabo earlier this week, so I think that would kind of indicate maybe he's kind of eliminated Clemson. Again, though, there's been so many twists and turns in this recruitment. This time last month, there was talk that he was going to Clemson and not visiting any other school. So it just kind of goes to show how many things have changed in this recruitment. I think when he makes a decision on Monday, it'll be Alabama or Georgia. I've put a pick in for Alabama almost 2 years ago, and I've never really felt the need to change it just because there's never been concrete info, and because he's not telling anyone, so nobody knows. I think Bama has just as good a shot as Georgia to get him. We'll see on Monday. I'm sticking with Bama for now, though.
All right, that sounds good, and that's also good news. I'll let my son, who's a 10th grader, know that he will not be in the 6A class for wrestling. He'll be in college.
He's gone.
No doubt.
I think he is doing one more wrestling tournament this weekend, though.
Yeah, we're not in that one. I told my son, I said, hey, listen, you're a 10th grader. My son's like the smallest guy, and he's just barely over the weight limit, and Clay is just barely under the weight limit. So it's like a 60-plus pound gap. Not going to happen. Yeah. So but anyway, hey, tell our listeners real quick where they can catch up with you and what you got going on, man.
Yeah, you can follow us on BamaOnline.com. We're doing a free 7-day trial. It's a really fun time to join now because obviously all the coaches are on the road. Kind of that holiday buzz going around. Signing day's coming up, so it's a really good chance to hop on board and see what you get with your membership. And you can follow me along at HankSouth247 on Twitter.
That's at HankSouth247. Joins us each and every week on Thursday in the third quarter at HankSouth247, your recruiting analyst, the one you need to follow at Bama Online. Thanks, Hank. We'll catch up with you next week.
Sure thing. Thanks, Martin.